Hello everyone, my name is Johnny Zamora and today we're going to be talking about the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 22nd, and the 26th Amendment. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to start off with the 16th Amendment. Protections under the 16th Amendment is that Congress could basically tax people. A little history behind it is that the 16th Amendment was passed because a lot of the population believed that instead of having tariffs, which is put on imports and exports of goods, that they thought that an income tax would provide a more stable source of income. William H. Taft proposed to Congress to have an income tax. Some supporters of the 16th Amendment was the Rhode Island Senator Nelson W. Aldrich. He was actually the one who proposed it. It was supported by most Democrats and progressives. The time that it took for the 16th Amendment to take full effect, it was because it was passed by Congress on July the 2nd, 1909, and it was ratified on February the 3rd, 1913. So it took about 4 years for the 16th Amendment to take full effect. The impact was that it was a stronger income and it was a new form for a stable economy rather than having tariffs. The 17th Amendment, some protections, is that it established popular election of state senators by the people. So what it basically means is that the people per state could vote 2 senators. Some history is that before, under the Article 1, Clause 1 and 2 of the Constitution, the state legislature would elect the state senators for a 6-year term, and James Wilson advocated a popular elect the Senate, and his proposal was defeated 10-1. Supporters of the 17th Amendment, the most popular, or you could say common, is William Jennings Bryan and William Randolph Hearst. Some of the obstacles was that two problems were the legislative corruption and electoral deadlocks. It passed by Congress on May the 13th, 1912, and it was ratified on April the 8th in 1913. So it took a year or so for the 17th Amendment to take on full effect. Impact is that it increased the political participation of the population because the election of the 2 senators per state was taken by the people. The 18th Amendment, this amendment occurred during the Prohibition era. Prohibition is like the abolishment of alcohol. So the protections is that it banned the manufacture, sale, or transportation of alcoholic beverages. However, it did not make illegal the consumption of alcohol. You could drink alcohol, but you couldn't sell it, transport it, or manufacture it. Some history is that it occurred because of the temperance and the prohibition movement. So the temperance movement, it was actually led by women who felt that alcohol was destroying their household, saying that men would spend too much money on alcohol and not provide for the family, that it made their husbands violent. So I guess you could say this was like the first amendment that was responsible because of women. Some of the supporters were Andrew Johnson, the one who succeeded Lincoln after Lincoln was shot and killed, William Jennings Bryan, who was a progressive Democrat, and obviously women. Obstacles that economic losses, the government actually lost $11 billion in tax revenue and $300 million to actually enforce prohibition, because since the early colonial period, alcohol was present. So it's kind of hard for you to enforce someone not to drink, since they've been drinking for so long. The time it was ratified on January the 16th, 1919, and it took effect on January the 17th, 1920. So it took effect the day after it was ratified. The impact, it was a reform movement for women, but it did have big economic losses. So I guess you could say this was important because of the women's effect on to lead to prohibition. The 19th Amendment, this goes out for the women. It was the amendment that granted us the right to vote. So it says the protections that no one could be denied the right to vote on account of sex or gender. I mean, it's the same thing as gender. So that means that you cannot be denied the right to vote just because you're a woman or you're a man. So with history, it was a women's suffrage movement. support were women and other reformers. And the time it was on August 18th, 1920. It was 8 days later the amendment took effect, and the impact was that women could now legally, for the first time, vote in the presidential election or any other types of elections. This legalized the women to vote. The 22nd Amendment, protections is that the president could only serve for 2 terms, a total of 8 years. Before, the president could serve more than 2 years. So nowadays, only a president can serve for 2 years, and 1 year is 4 years. That's why it says a total of 8 years. History, 13 years of having a Democratic president. Republicans finally gained the majority, like the majority, I guess you could say, control over in the House of Representatives and the Senate. People thought that a president shouldn't serve more than 8 years because they thought that if they would serve for more than 8 years, it was bad for the country. I guess you could say change was better. You know, it's good to have a variation in the presidency. The time it took to take full effect was 7 years, and the impact was that it affected all the presidents after Truman's presidency. As you can see now, how like Barack Obama, who served 2 years, so that's why Trump won, or any other candidate could have won, because Obama could not run for a 3rd term in office. The final amendment that I'm going to be talking about is the 26th Amendment. The protections under the 26th Amendment is that people could now vote at the age of 18. Before, it was 21. History, it began during the World War II, and it intensified during the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, it was not a popular war. A lot of people were against it. And also because, like, on one of the obstacles is that, you know, now the military draft was age 18, so a lot of young men were now present during the war. The supporter was Franklin D. Roosevelt, because he was the one who, you know, proposed it, because they needed men during the war. And the time it took to take full effect was 3 months and 8 days. It's also considered one of the shortest amendments to get ratified. The impact, it allows millions of young people to actively participate in the democratic process and have a voice. That is why now, myself, that I am 18, and anyone who's 18 can now vote. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching.